I do that way too often where I cut myself off because I'm trying to gather my thoughts. Okay. Paul, let me say about everybody else first. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they take things back to Adam, but only for the bloodline. Because the Bible is a book obsessed by the bloodline. We could talk about reasons for that if you ever want to, but they take it back to Adam only for that purpose. Their purpose is to take it back to Abraham. Because that's what they're concerned about, is Israel. Okay? And Paul even confirms that Jesus came to confirm the patriarchal promises, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Okay? But when Jesus was here, he was speaking to the Israelites. That's why, and this is a beautiful story, and I wish you could understand it the way it really is. The Syrophoenician woman, she came and she asked for Jesus to heal her daughter. And Jesus said, because she wasn't an Israelite. She had no standing to be asking him this question. He said, it's not right to give the children's food to the dogs. He called her a dog. Because that's what the Israelites thought of everybody who was not an Israelite. So he's just playing that role. But here's what she did. She said, yes, Master. But even the dogs can lick the crumbs that fall from the children's table. Okay? And he healed her daughter. And he said, I haven't seen such faith like this in all of Israel. She understood that he came as the Messiah of Israel, but she understood that he was greater than just that. And he was, because he did lots of things way beyond just being the Messiah to Israel, or the king that they were looking for their kingdom. Peter, all of those guys, they didn't understand any of that. They didn't understand any of that. Paul is the one who teaches about those things. Again, Paul's message is just much greater. Because this is the final message. This is the grace of God, that he was in Christ reconciling the world to himself, that sin has been dealt with. I mean, I see people who forego Christianity because they don't think Christians are adamant enough about getting rid of sin. But even Christians have the wrong understanding. They don't understand Paul at all. But there are hardcore people who believe the law, who believe you got to get rid of the sin in your life. Again, for those people, I don't understand what they think Jesus accomplished on the cross. He accomplished more than you think. I can guarantee that. And Paul got the message from the risen Christ. And it's a different message. And it is, as I've said in other videos, the message of the transcendent grace of God, the finished work of Jesus Christ, the reconciliation or the conciliation of mankind to God, and the salvation of all. All of that comes with Paul. As I've said to you before also, Paul wrote Hebrews. He wrote that not under his name. He wrote that to his countrymen of Israel, to let them know that the kingdom they were waiting for was not going to happen in their lifetime. That's what it's for. That the kingdom that was promised to Israel was put on hold. Paul talks about that in Romans chapters 9 through 11. So that this message, the message of the grace of God, could come in. Okay? And be understood by a remnant. Small group representing the whole, who God uses to accomplish his purposes. The kingdom will come. There'll be a 1,000-year kingdom, and I've mentioned that numerous times. But that kingdom will not be the finished thing. This will be the ultimate end thing, where everything will come under this umbrella. Everything. You know, you'll see judgments in the next 2 ages. As Isaiah said, when thy judgments are in the earth, Lord, the people will learn righteousness. Now, there are probably going to be people who don't learn righteousness in the judgments of God. And those will be the vessels of dishonor who end up going through the lake of fire. Of course, the lake of fire is the second death. So when I say that, God defines it. I'm not defining it. God defines it as the second death. Now, how that death occurs, I don't know. But it's not what you think of when you think of the lake of fire. This is the message. And it's just like, I don't know whether it took Paul 14 years to get this message or 17 years. I've told you, my journey with God started 20 years ago. And it was only in the last 4 years or so that I started understanding this completely. That's what's great about it, though, is you're getting the consummation of everything God has taught me. Everything God has taught me has worked its way to this point. And now you're going to get this thing, under this umbrella, without all of the 20 years. Because this is the inheritance. There's probably so much more to say about this. But this may be enough for now. I always say this. I'm going to put these 2 things, and I may just start putting them in everything I ever tell you. Right now, you don't worship God as God. And no one you know does. Because they're still stuck in that religious mindset that Christianity has. That you've got to do things. And that all of this is based on you. So you don't worship God as God. And because you don't worship God as God, you don't understand everything that you just don't understand how good He is, or what He's done, what He's accomplished. You sing praise songs that act like you do, but then you give Him these heinous characteristics and this lack that He can't do things, that He can't accomplish things, and good thing you're here to accomplish them. That's silliness. And again, I've told you this. I've told you this numerous times. This message that I just taught you, that Paul talks about, you're not going to find that in any church building anywhere. You can go to any church building on the planet. Because the few people who understand this message, they're not in a church building. Because they understand completely, just like I do. They don't, there's nothing in that church building that's right. Nice people. Nice people. It's not their fault. I'm not saying it is. In the absolute sense, God has not given them an understanding. In the relative sense, they don't understand. Okay? We talked about absolute and relative. In the relative, they just don't understand. In the absolute, God has blinded their eyes so they will not understand. So, Paul, read Paul differently, because his message is different. I love you all.